just go ahead and do everything else, or do you want to?
No, I'll go ahead and call the Grant County Commissioners recess has ended, and we'll call our meeting order as well.
Okay, all right. Would everybody please stand for a prayer and a pledge led by Mr. Brinkle?
Lord, we thank you for allowing us to get together once again to do the county's business. And we ask that we proceed with wisdom and integrity. And we ask that you bless our meeting tonight. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Brinkle.
Here.
Caudell.
Here.
Hicks.
Here.
Kitts.
Here.
Lemming.
Here.
McWhort.
Here.
Scott.
Here. All right. I think we're all checked in. You guys don't do anything like that? Nope. All right. Welcome to Grant County Council meeting. Tonight we do have a special joint session with the Grant County Board of Commissioners as well as the County Council. And the primary presenter tonight is BW Construction on a potential jail project. And with that, we'll turn the meeting over to you guys.
So on behalf of the Commissioners, obviously, I'd like to introduce BW Construction, Dustin with BW Construction. If you'd like, would you go ahead and introduce your team?
Yeah, absolutely. So, good evening, everyone. I'm Dustin Fry, president of BW Construction. We've got representatives from DCCM, which is our architects and engineers, as well as Wygand, who's our construction partner, that are here with me tonight. So, do we have the presentation on the screen? There we go. All right. So, again, thank you for having us up this evening and allowing us to present to everybody. You have two handouts that are in front of you. The one that looks like this packet was presented back in January to the Board of Commissioners. This is what we call the GMP, Guaranteed Maximum Price packet, for the options that we were working on during the scoping period. And then there were some additional options within that. The other presentation that looks like what's on the screen is kind of a higher level summary of this. So I don't intend to dive into the details of this first packet necessarily, but if you have questions about anything that's in there, we should be touching on the project as a whole, and there's more information there if we need to talk through it. So the goal tonight, I thought, with it being a joint session and opportunity for the public to be here, that it would be a good thing to save this. There we go. The goal is to kind of just bring everybody kind of through the process that's been started county looking at this project for the last couple of years, and kind of give a history of how we got to where we are tonight, and then lay out the options that we've put together that are able to be considered. And then we're here to answer any question. And the goal is that we all leave this meeting with all of the information that you need has been presented to you. And each governing body can make the appropriate decisions on the appropriate path forward from there on. So, real quick, high level background. I think everybody's aware of this. Current jail, 274 bed capacity, consistently has been overcrowded over the last several years, and does not have the necessary space to classify inmates appropriately and do the necessary programming that would facilitate that inmate getting the proper help they may need. Back in 2023, there was a study that was contracted with another firm to assess the jail and the D home and put a recommendation on what might be needed for a jail project. The summary of that study was ultimately proposing a large new facility that was well over $100 million, I think closer to maybe 110, and ultimately not a project that was financially feasible for the county. Fast forward to late 2024, and our team was hired under the Indiana Code 523 BOT process. And we started looking at what it would take to provide some alternative options as opposed to just building a large new facility somewhere. So, where went it? Somebody took it away. We love technology.
It's back.
It's back. We're back. So as we mentioned, your jail's 274 beds. I believe the average daily population over the last year was somewhere between 365 and 380 inmates. And if you go with the functional needs of that, typically you need 20% more beds than inmates so that you can properly classify and move them out, which would dictate the 460 to 475 bed need. Also, you don't need to rehash, but you're well aware of the cost of sending inmates out of county that you currently do, to the tune of a little over $1 million a year in out of county inmate costs. So, if you'll remember back, I believe it's probably a year or so ago, where we had a similar meeting that before we really dove into the project, we looked at multiple options that we came and presented. This is these next two slides are from that meeting where we had considered 7 or 8 different options with renovating the D home, adding a pod, shelling out a portion of a pod, trying to potentially do just a standalone pod, which I think was option 4. And ultimately, not every one of those options would facilitate or meet the needs that the county currently has. But it was determined at that time through a joint vote of support before we really dove into the scoping that there would be support for a project at the D home with a housing pod addition in the cost range of $60 to $70 million.
I'm gonna disagree with that. I'd say it was up to 60 million, but is what it is.
That's fine. The target was 60 million, I agree, but the vote was 60 to 70 million, so potentially support. So ultimately, those were the options that we were proposed with. We used that information to say, how could we move forward and facilitate that? And so DCCM started through the design process of the D-home renovation and pod addition. And we went through a normal process, had schematic design development, and ultimately today we've stopped the design process at 90% documents, and that's more than enough documents for our team to go out and bid to subcontractors, which we have done, and came up with our GMP. We have 3 options that we've put together. Option 1 is the renovation of the D home with a housing pod. It does not touch the existing housing pod at the D home. In option one, that would be 352 beds. Option two is the same option as option one with just the renovation of the current pod that's over there that would give you another 46 beds. So it'd be 398. There is a possibility from a space perspective in that pod that you could double bunk it to get another 46 beds. So you'd have 92 new beds there, which would put you at 444. And then late in the process, we were asked about looking into another option of what would it take if you could take an existing jail that maybe has been designed and just kind of build it out in a new green field area. And so our team had worked on the Hancock County Jail. And so we have taken that plan, put it on the site, and updated the pricing from what that cost 7 years ago, to today's dollars on this site, and have projected that as an option. And I know there was also a small group of everyone here that went and was able to tour that facility and speak with Sheriff Burkhart and what he's doing down there from for running that jail. So I'm going to invite Sanjay Patel up with ECCM. He's our lead architect on the project, and have him kind of just high level walk through each of the three options from a technical point of view of what's in them, what's not in them, some of the differences, and then we'll move into more the financial side of things.
Good evening, Sanjay Patel with DCCM, project manager. Again, there's a lot of information that Dustin just put out to you, and I think some of it has been repeated a few times earlier. But just very high level, wanted to go over some of the things. I don't want to steal Sheriff's thunder, so I might not get into too much of the details here. But like Dustin mentioned, option one is the renovation of the existing D home and the addition of a pod between the jail and the D home currently. One of the things that thing does is it starts taking up a lot of square footage off your block between the D home and the jail. And so what it starts to do is to start hindering your ability to think about future expansion. And I've heard this so many times. I've done this for 35 years, and you keep hearing this thing that, I wish I'd known about future growth, because we'd never fill the jail that we're going to build today. And inevitably something, changes happen. Populations grow, jail populations increase. And so without putting that forethought into where and how you would expand the project in the future, we kind of start limiting what we can do with the D home site. From a budgetary standpoint, I fully understand the limitations, but we are working with the current D home and the fact that it was designed for a juvenile facility and not for adult incarceration. So all of those things taken into consideration, the 350 bed addition housing pod that we would add has about 12 classification units. And classification here plays a very important role in the success of the project, especially when it comes into terms of, programming for reducing recidivism, the ability to separate inmates. Obviously, males and females, right? You want to keep them separate. You have to keep them separate. But the stages that those inmates are, what the crimes they've committed, it makes it a lot easier for the sheriff and his staff to operate and treat them if they are separated and not in the same bedrooms and spaces together. So 12 classifications, again, about as low as you want to get. Can it function? With challenges, yes. Is it ideal to do what Grant County wants to do with this project? I think you're going to find it a little challenging. Staffing becomes a challenge too, because if you're using the existing D home, the way it's laid out, you're trying to accommodate an addition of a housing unit plus the inefficiencies of the way the original D home was laid out. So staffing will not be ideal. Medical and intake booking, those also are going to be very challenging. 2 beds in the medical unit currently in the D home, and that hasn't been planned to be expanded at all. So sheriff's gonna be stuck with 2 of those and no ability to add any medical spaces to the facility. There will not be any spaces for mental health treatment, things like that also. So again, forcing the facility to work with the D home is going to have its limitations, and it's going to affect the ability of the staff to truly deliver what the facility like this should. Other than that, I think, those are the big points that you want to think about when you're talking about jail is future growth, classification, staffing, operational efficiencies, intake, booking, medical, those are the things that we really want to focus on. And so if you look at option 1 and option 2, I think they're going to be very similar. The one benefit of option 2 is that you are going to incorporate the new housing, the existing housing pod, so you gain 6 more classification units. So you bring a total of 18. And again, that's getting closer to where you want it. And feel free to stop me anytime if you have any questions. I'll just keep going through that. That's just some of your plans of the facility itself. You can see the housing pod there and the existing D home with the existing housing unit there. One of the things that this option 1 or 2 will require is the movement of the existing operations in the D home to another location temporarily while we rebuild this thing. So that's going to be a operational challenge for a while, inconvenience, let's put it that way. There's going to be costs associated with it. Don't think they have costs included with any of these numbers, but that's the thing that the county is going to have to bear about relocating administrative spaces that are currently in the existing D home. Parking is another thing that I want to talk about. Any project on the D home site will cause a loss of 80 parking spots downtown for people that are working in the jail currently, or re-correction, probation, in this building itself. So again, that's going to have to be part of our way to find those spots. There's a parking lot across from Branson Street. Again, it's slightly remote and require crossing streets when adverse weather could be a challenge. We've just been through that recently. So again, loss of parking spots in the downtown environment could be a challenge too. Option 3, that's the option that Dustin talked about a existing project that we built in Hancock County, locating it on the Greenfield site here.
Can I stop you real quick though?
Yeah,
Before you move from that, option 2, someone had brought up the fact that if we actually opened up that juvenile detention center to put adults in there, it's been vacant for a while, that we would actually have to get approval from detention authorities in order to open that facility back up.
That was if you were going to open it up as a juvenile facility.
Okay, so as an adult facility, you don't see any
Normal
issues.
process with DOC on the adult facility.
Okay,
So we will still have to get approval for the entire design concept that we want to go ahead with.
right.
Department of Corrections will review it, give us their okay. And they are not a authorizing body, they're more of a reviewing body. And typically, as long as you meet the requirements for the standards, they do not have an issue with that.
Okay. All right, thank you. Sorry.
So option 3 was the project on the Greenfield site. And there are a few benefits that I'd like to touch on at a very high level. The first one is the scalability and the future expansion. With the downtown site, I think we've talked about how it limits your ability to grow in the future. And with this option, you can almost do anything you want. There are opportunities for doing juvenile facilities there. You can do community corrections there. Parking is not a challenge. You can add more beds in the future easily. And all of these additions can be done in an efficient manner so that you're not compromising the operational efficiency of the facility itself. With the current location downtown, you're kind of squeezing everything into an existing facility and you have to live with those challenges. So this allows you to get away from that. Classification, you get more opportunity to do classification. The medical, mental health options here are so much better, and giving the sheriff all the tools that he's going to need to be able to address the issues with incarceration and built-in expansion. If you look at the plan that we have there, that's overall just like the orange box that you see on top, that's a possible location of additional beds. 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, if you do need additional beds, there's space for 600 more beds. And so, again, you don't have to build it, but you're thinking about it now so that if the time comes for adding additional beds, there's a plan for whoever is going to want to do this in the future. That's a quick plan. The top right corner, you can see it all shelled out. Again, you've built in the ability to add beds without increasing any staff. And so that is huge because every staff position adds a lot of money, and you're not doing it for the first time, you're doing it for every year of operation of the facility. So every time you can save, staff, I think, it's a lot easier to sell it from operations, from staffing, from council costs, things like that. So we have that built into the facility itself. Some of the numbers we talked about, costs of beds, the number of staff it would take to operate. In our estimation, option 3 could work with the existing staff that Sheriff has. And I don't know, Sheriff, if you've been through that exercise on staffing, but we believe that it is possible to operate that with the current staff that Sheriff has. Schedule-wise, a little longer. Again, the big thing is the future expansion of 116 beds, plus the ability to add a whole new 600 beds at some point in the future. And there will not be any staff relocation of the existing D home. So, very high level, those are the highlights I'd like to bring to your attention. If you have any questions, happy to answer those.
The handout that we got for January, the January the 19th, 26 said the anticipated GMP range was 72 on option 3, 72, 274 to 79, 793 million. And now you've got a number of 73.9 million.
Yeah, it's a number within the range that we feel is feasible. If you'll remember back through, as we've gone through the process with the D home, the numbers, every time we got more information and got it, the numbers kept coming down. We would anticipate the same process here, because we're projecting based on what it cost when we built it in Hancock County to today's dollars, and there's been significant escalation over the last 6 years. So the number that we show there in the handout, the 73.9, relates to a number that the financial advisors on the next slide had put a payment plan to. So they had to pick a number versus a range, and so that's how it got to that. Thank you for pointing that out.
Thanks.
So the next page in your packet, and I don't know what page number it is. It's one of the last ones. Is I think it is second to last one. So Baird and Bondry, they've been here before to present on potential bond for what this project could look like. So they unfortunately couldn't be here tonight. Landon, who's worked on this project, was out of town in St. Louis. So he is offered to come to an upcoming council meeting to talk through any of this information and go through it. I'd highly recommend you talk to them versus us. We're not financial advisors. We can relay the information, but this is an assessment of all 3 options with the costs that we've projected based on what that annual payment would be, potential revenue assumptions up there in the top left. And they're all 3 based on 25 years, which is a cap that you're limited to with the lit. There is a way to stretch to 30 years, but it involves a different pledge. Again, they could talk more about that. This is a conservative look. The interest rate he's projected this at was 4.5. For what it's worth, he said they're closing on a bond very similar to this this week down in Jasper, and the rate they're closing at is 3.83. You know, 0.5% in interest rate reduction on a $60 million job is a little over $200,000 a year in payment and over $5 million of total cost over the life of the bond. And so, as he said, he hasn't seen rates this low recently. So they've trended in the right direction. It's a good time if you're going to go sell a bond. So ultimately, we wanted to give you what that information is so you could see, you know, even though we say a $56.6 million project, what would that relate to from a payment and potential interest that you're paying, which is depressing numbers to look at when it comes to that. So, and then option 3, 73.9. Again, there's a range. We have not, the reason there's additional time in the schedule if you go to that option is we have a design that's completed, we would have to update a few things and put it on this site and do a whole new civil design. So there's some time there. But we do feel that that's well in the range and would be feasible if that's ultimately what is decided. So that is the high level quick run through of kind of what we've done and how we got to this point. I think we'll leave it on the side-by-side comparison just for easy reference. Ultimately, all 3 options have there's positives with each option. There's cons with every option. Nothing is a perfect option, but it does provide for a new jail that would be brought up to current day standards and would be easily able to be maintained. So with that, I'll pause for any questions, and I think if not the questions, we're going to open up for any county employee comments, questions. I know the sheriff has some stuff to share as well. So
I got a real quick question. I think you kind of touched on it. It says the option 3 cons does not utilize design work for renovation options. So does that mean we'd have to have a brand new design and is that figure factored into the second?
Yeah, the cost is figured in. So ultimately that con is you've spent some money to design something at the D home that you wouldn't ultimately be using. You are getting a design that's been done before, so we beat up DCCM so we can significantly discount what that design fee would be to update. But there is a little bit of a work that's been done that's not getting utilized. That's what that is.
Okay, thank you.
That's all figured into the cost estimates.
The juvenile housing pod, it had been estimated back in like October, 6.6 million. And then on this January page 7, it says D home housing pods renovations 5.2 million.
Correct.
Did you change what you were doing, or that's just more kind of what you're saying is coming more into focus?
It's more into focus. We have more information, and these numbers for option 1 and 2 are based on actual subcontractor bids. They're no longer budgets that we were putting together. Wygan put out full bid packages. We've had a bid event with lots of participation from subcontractors, and that's driven the price down.
Okay, thank you.
I do, for those that haven't gone through the details, there's still some conservativeness to the numbers, even though we've actually bid it. We're talking about a renovation in option 1. There's risk to that. There's unknowns when you get into a building like that. So there's still a significant number for contingency and some allowances that's in here. And ultimately, the way that our contract would work is if that you would know if contingency is getting spent, you'd be regularly updated on that for what it was spent for. But any money that's remaining in the contingency or allowance that doesn't need to be spent would be returned in full to the county at the end of the project. So there's $2.5 million plus of contingency still in option one. And then there's some, another $1.5 million of what we call owner FF&E technology allowance that, we've got a lot of stuff built into the design, but there's always something that you need. And so there's $4 million there, that some of that will get spent, just to be clear, but wanted you to know that this isn't something where we're gonna get into a project if it's approved and then you're coming back in 6 months and saying, hey, we need a change order for X, Y, and Z. There's money there built in for those kind of existing condition items, or if you have a quick little scope change that you need to make, we've built in those contingencies for that.
Yeah, probably just the one that really kind of makes me laugh is that we're in Indiana. So a winter conditions allowance of $200,000 as the fourth item just seems like, you're building in Indiana. Welcome to Indiana. You're not in Florida. So
Yeah.
it is what it is. So
It's one of those things on every project, because depending on when the schedule takes place, we're going to be working through a winter, and we'd rather put you a number that we know we can do it for, assuming we have a normal winter, and return money versus the other side.
Where'd you get the number for the utility taps?
Utility taps, that is an allowance. The civil engineer has been working with utility companies, and I don't know if we've got an actual estimate from them on.
The utility companies don't charge us nothing.
And then we can zero that out.
Okay.
When a subcontractor gives you a bid, is he responsible for anything that he may have overlooked?
Yeah.
So how do the contingencies play into that?
The contingencies are, so there's drawings, there's specifications, there's additional information that our team has put together to lay out the expectations to the subcontractor. And so that scope goes in their contract. And if they forgot something in their scope, that's on them.
Well, I guess I'm kind of thinking, if they get into the project and they find something that nobody knew was there, is that on them, or does that come out of the contingency?
No, and unforeseen, if there's something nobody knows, that's what contingency's there for. We go tear down a wall and it was load bearing, we needed to do something that we couldn't figure out based on our baseline investigations. That's why you have a contingency.
And if the contingencies need to be used, do you have the authority to use those contingencies?
Yep.
You don't need to come back to the.
No. But we do regularly report, in normal monthly meetings. Here's what it is. Here's why it is. You would see a complete open book process as to why that's there.
We kind of got that at 911, It was 1.7 million. Time they got contingency, it was 2.8.
Was that figured in up to 2.8?
Well, that's what they got. They came back and got for contingencies, extras.
For change orders.
Yeah, but the whole bid was 1.7. You come back and get that much more? And when you go over and look what they've done, no way. Because somebody needs to expect you guys. Because what we paid for over there for $3 million and the work we've done, I think it was $5 million, $4 or $5 million to finish that building. We got $500,000 in it. We did it ourselves. This is like this whole jail thing. We can't afford this when you look at that interest. Guys, you gonna put that on the taxpayers of Grant County? Ain't no way. I don't care what jail you guys send them to. They don't have the same money we got here. Our problem isn't a jail. We have a drug problem. Everybody knows it. We got to have a rehab. All we got to do is rehab that D home. Take 92 people out there. That lowers jail. We don't have to ship the people out. We'll break even on the pay. That's the only common sense thing to do. There's no way you can put this on the back of Grant County. When you guys tell them the interest, tell them the whole price with the interest and everything, guys. Because I guarantee you these taxpayers will come off on you. And I've said this from day one. I told you guys this. When we asked for the pod, we just asked for a pod and a building with a kitchen and intakes for the adults. We never ever got that big. It was always bigger. It was always more. And he is right, the president is right. We started this deal, it was 45 to 50 million. You guys came up with the other 67 million with all the other stuff. I mean, we got to talk about being honest here and be truthful with you. I went over that fire station for 5.7 million. There ain't no way.
Now we're getting off subject there. Anybody else have any questions or comments for BW?
So on option 3, every piece of, let's say if you turn to page 18, every piece of the pod, how much roughly dollars do you eliminate? You scale, you know, that second pod is built out, not totally built out, right?
Mhm.
So how much per slice and inmates do you remove? You just want to lower the cost.
Yeah, it first of all depends on which slice you take because they're each a little different in size. One side is cells, the other side is dormitory. Cells are more expensive, and that's definitely something that we could look at if you go down that process and create the alternates for different slices of the pie, so to speak. I think you guys had just bid a project that was 400, 500 thousand per pod.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in the 750 to 500 in that range.
yeah. So around rough numbers, $500,000 per slice.
Per slice.
The option 3 you're mentioning here, the fully new built facilities, 469 beds.
As it currently stands.
That's as it stands. That's what's built in at this point.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes. And then on the second, I don't think we showed the second story there. It got omitted. But that center section between the two pods, that's all shell space. So there's 9,000 square feet of space up there that's open to do whatever you see fit to do. I think if you remember the tour, that's where they built their like defensive tactics room and some other detective offices.
And you're saying that's above what's shown here.
That's above what's shown there, and it's empty.
How many square feet did you say?
I believe it's around 9,000 square feet there in the center on the second floor.
No, it was, when the jail was originally built, that was 20,000 square feet shell. And so when we added the sheriff's
There's
administration
9,000
to it,
left there.
so then some of that space on the second floor, half of it got taken over by the sheriff's department for administrative stuff. And so then there's 9,000 left now. But if we don't have a sheriff's department in here and it's just the jail administration, it'll be 20,000 square feet of potential space on the second floor.
With option 3, what was your intentions with these existing facilities? Is it demo, looking to lease out? Is there anything in that budget concerning these facilities?
Not from our perspective, that'd be a commissioner decision.
Then with option 1 and 2, with the parking situation, is there any provisions for parking lot purchase, repaving, anything along those lines?
Not in our current numbers, no.
Just looking for the in-between costs of the actual.
Yeah, the cost to move people out of the D home
Right.
and or any additional infrastructure off the site is not something that we've considered. That's obviously something that needs to be taken into consideration.
So how many parking spaces would be taken away if it's option 1 or 2?
You said 80, I think. Yeah.
80.
Yeah, it's a large pod that goes over there.
Is there a plan from the commissioners on how to come up with another 80 spaces?
Yeah, so on behalf of the commissioners, Mr. Glickfield's been working on lot B purchase potential or transfer, so maybe he could speak to that.
I don't want to say too much because it's a potential negotiation still, but yes, the city is willing to cooperate with the county in acquiring that piece of property.
How many spaces potential?
I'm sorry,
How many potential spaces on that property?
I don't know how many are on there.
Enough to
Yes,
feasibly.
yeah, it's quite large.
Is that developed property already, or does it need
Flat.
paving?
Asphalt, yeah.
That does not include that building right over beside it on the north side. You're just talking about the parking lot.
Parking lot, correct.
We, as the county, own half the parking lot currently, and so the city owns the back half, lot B.
Which I think we're parking on it now.
we actually pay to use that loan.
I've actually spoken to the mayor and a councilman, and they said they was gonna give that property to us. And that was just 2-3 days ago.
And so while that's not ideal, I mean, obviously crossing the traffic and the distance does create some issues, but I mean, I think we have the ability to have the parking spaces there.
Dustin, could you talk about a little bit, how we control the contingency? If the numbers that Mr. Pauling speaks of, that's almost double what that project cost ended up. And I can tell you, I'm starting my 24th year here. I've seen a lot of projects. Every one of them comes in overpriced, and we blow through the contingencies. And we get into situations where even a few years after we discover things, and we have to find more money now to cover what should have already been caught during construction.
Yeah.
How do we control a contingency growing as large as what Mr. Pauling is speaking of?
Yeah, so the contract structure that this project would be under is Indiana Code 523. It's a BOT. So what we are telling you is, for this guaranteed maximum price, here is the scope we're going to deliver to. You guys you'll have the drawings, you have the specs, you'll have all of our scope assumptions. That's what you're buying. And so if we have to utilize the contingency for stuff within that project and we go over it, that's on us. We can't come back to you for any of this scope items and ask for a change order. It's the benefit of the BOT. But you also, we do things a little different than some other people that do BOTs. You have upside as well, that if we can get it done for less, we're going to return that money back to the taxpayers.
On conversion and new builds, what kind of warranties on structure, capital equipment? What can we look at cost savings wise in terms of maintenance over what period of time on those two?
Yeah, I don't have maintenance costs or what it would cost to operate from.
But is there a guarantee on like chillers that no cost to us for 5 years or 10 years or?
We can look into that. Right now, everything that would come with it would be whatever the manufacturer's standard warranty is, and I know. The design team will have different specs that require certain things as it relates to chillers and boilers and stuff. You get your standard 1 year full workmanship warranty, and then everything else is manufacturer based, whether it's if we did roofing or a chiller or a door lock.
So we're looking at more of a 1 year timeline for guarantees.
Yeah.
On a new build, is there a contingency built in?
Yes.
Give me an example of why you would need contingency on a new build.
Well, design's never perfect. So there might be some stuff that's not clarified that we need to, work out and clarify. As constructors, we're never perfect when it comes to, scoping out everything. So there might be a coordination issue between the electrician and a HVAC contractor on who's doing a disconnect or something. Those are examples of where you would need it. So obviously you need a lot less because it's pretty simple process at that point compared to going into a building where there's a lot of unknowns. But there still is contingency. It's not a perfect process. And we also we're mitigating our risk by giving you that guarantee, and we don't want to, hey, here, there's nothing in it, and then we're coming back for change orders, and that's not what we want.
We have environmental assessments on that building over there, mold remediation, asbestos, all that stuff we've figured out already. We're good, or that's figured into that?
We have what we need for the areas that we're doing work in.
Okay.
And the parking question, page 25 in that detailed packet is kind of it doesn't show the parking, but it shows kind of the logistics area. So you can see the big blue addition. So it's the overall aerial. You can see why you're losing the parking you're losing there from a perspective. That is during construction, here's what that site would look like for us to lay down and build and manage that, just as a visual.
Is there ever an option to convert streets to like one way on the side streets and do dive-in parking to gain space that way? If we looked at that.
Yeah, I think that's something that we could work with the city on.
Branson Street.
So the BOT gives us more of a guarantee that that's going to be.
Yep.
So would it be safe to say that there could be some inflated costs to make sure that you stay within that number?
That's what the contingencies are. Now that as we've gone through the process, yes, some of our costs are inflated. I'm hoping that option 3 is inflated if you chose to go down that path, because we're trying to project. We didn't bid that one out here recently. But when we bid it out, those subcontractors, those numbers are what we plug in, and that's why we separate all the contingency. So the cost is the cost.
If it was a regular bid,
Mhm.
how would the numbers look compared to what a BOT bid is?
You'd probably just have a little bit less contingency. But we're also gonna come back for every single thing that's wrong.
Yeah,
Typical
and
design
that's
bid.
what worries me a little bit, because I'll be honest, my expectation, turning it over to whoever does a project.
Yep.
You're the professionals.
Yep.
You know, you've been through this, you should have it all down pat,
Mhm.
knowing where everything's gonna be coming from. You know, and to have the contingencies and to keep coming back because we didn't see something.
And that's why
is
that's what we're not
a
doing.
concern.
That we can't do that, right? That's why you do this contract structure. We're not coming back to you for those things.
So what is the contingency in the BOT covering then?
Those things.
Right.
We have the right to spend it to protect the risk that we're taking for it. And then here's the money back. You can eliminate all the contingency. We come back for every single thing that's wrong with the design.
No, because I know you will. And that'll get really expensive.
Yes.
Real quick.
And you also gotta figure when you go option 3, you got 195 more people. So you better figure in the soft cost versus the 274 we have. You know what I'm saying? So that's 195 more people that we gotta pay for. The taxpayer.
How many jails have you built?
Personally, 7.
Is there a way to the jails that you built and what the capacity, the design capacity was, and what the current capacity is? And is it easy to come up with those numbers?
We could reach out to a few sheriffs and get some information for you. I know Hancock County, for example, I think Sheriff Burkhart shared some numbers with where they were, what they built for, and they've actually, since they opened the new jail, their population's been reduced from what they were to start. And it's growing by a lot. And he would say it's because they have the space and they can do the programming that they couldn't do in their downtown facility.
It surprised me that it dropped to 3.
And it seems like that's a common. It seems like that happens a lot.
Yeah.
That we bid on this rated capacity, and then the actual capacity ends up substantially less. So we're spending all this money for a capacity we're never going to get to. And the operational capacity is actually a lot less than that.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say never gonna get to, because I don't know what the future holds, but I think Sheriff can probably speak to this better, of when you have the ability to classify and put and spread out inmates and do programming within the space, that's helping those citizens get back into the public. And that's what we've seen in those jails that we've participated in. But we're also talking, that's over the last decade. So, you're building a facility for more than just a decade. So typically trends do continue up, but that's also based on population growth and other dynamics. So
Kind of to answer one of those questions, getting back to the Hancock County that we did tour, and this is from my notes I'd taken with the tour. In their old jail, they were running numbers of 320. The new jail is 461 beds in a combination of dormitories as well as jail cells, and they're now running about 250 inmates. And the old jail, I still don't understand this one fully. The old jail was run with a staff of 30, and the new jail is run with a staff of 50. I kept thinking that we were going to have maybe fewer because of the lack of a number of observation levels. We have one central, and so I thought the number would go down, but in their case, it had actually gone up. But again, going back to Hancock County, maybe the sheriff could answer that. He was wonderful and very willing to answer any questions.
Yeah.
That was impressive.
I know going back, we were involved in that project for 4 years before it got built and then during the construction. They were understaffed to begin with in their existing facility. And 50, our estimates for option 3 are 45, 44. Just it's really preference. I know I sat through a lot of council meetings with the sheriff, and every time they were in a budget thing, he was always asking for more staff. But 44 to 50 is probably the staff that obviously it takes to run option 3.
My recollection is he was 15 people short staffing wise when he had the 30.
Okay.
So that was a number that when they got there, it escalated. That included what they didn't have to bring them up to what the jail standard said they needed to be, and then hired really more programming people at that point to start running programs. And he's hired 3 or 4 programming people, right, Sanjay, to come in there and full-time people to do and run programs inside that jail, which has helped him reduce the overall population substantially, really, from what it was. It's really a huge success story for him.
And I think too, kudos to our sheriff in that I believe he's been running a full staff capacity. He's had pretty much a full staff. And so compliments to him on recruiting and getting those people here to run our jail.
To get option 3 to a place to where you could bid it out, from a cost standpoint, how much was that cost? I know currently, we've used about all the ARPA dollars, 1 and 2. I'm just curious if you wanted to get option 3 to a hard number, what would that cost be?
I'd have to look at some numbers there with where we are on the ARPA side, but my gut says between because we're gonna have to do site due diligence of geotech survey unless some of that's been done out there. So that's a cost, and then again, most of the design is done. So just updating it, we wouldn't need to go through the full process, but it's probably $400,000 or $500,000 to get through everything and get it out to bid.
And then touching back on Beard, did you say that the last bond was closing, was it 3.8?
He said this week they're closing on one that's 3.83.
3.83.
Yeah. And he didn't want to, he's not putting that on this because we don't know the timing of when this is. And
Yeah, we
where
were
rates are
using
gonna go.
4.3, I think, when we were playing on this one earlier, but so.
I think it should
positive.
be 4.5.
It should, yeah, these numbers
These
are
show
4.5.
4.3 is what we used earlier in the process.
Yeah. They've trended in the right direction. So, yeah.
I like the 3.8.
3.83's, yeah.
I
It's nice to see a number in the 3 again.
I think most of us probably received the email from Mr. Bates that's showing that correctional rehab tax at the 0.2 estimate. Did you see it at the 2.9?
I didn't see the estimate. I know how much we're getting. You're talking about the revenue it's gonna bring in?
Yeah, he refigured it.
It's 2.90, it's 2,989,998. I mean, that's on the state side. You can see the printout. That's what it is. Just under 3 million.
Yeah. I think he Baird rounded up to 3 million. So, on this stage.
It's real close to 3 million. 10,000 plus.
Rounding here.
Yeah.
The only other comment I would make as far as any of the options, option 3, when it comes to utility costs, I haven't ran any numbers, but I know gas city utilities are cheaper, whether it's sewer, electric, whatever. And I know that the mayor of Gas City is willing to work with us if that site was picked.
Let me ask this, what are we looking at the timeline now? What are we looking to go from this night forward? What's the plan? As far as meetings and recommendations, those kind of things.
Yeah, so ultimately where we're at, we've fulfilled our scoping agreement that's part of the BOT by by getting to a GMP option. Typically what would happen is, you had a jail committee, that you were on. They would typically make a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. The Board of Commissioners we would propose the full BOT agreement, which we've sent draft agreements, for consideration. But we would propose the full BOT agreement to the Board of Commissioners. They would act on that. And then that's contingent upon the council approving the funding mechanism to fund the contract. There's some notices within each governing body and what we have to do there. But it can typically be done within a normal month of meeting cycles.
So I guess the next step would be the jail committee would meet to review. And then from that point, pick whatever option and then present that to the commissioners. Commissioners will review and then bring it to the council for financial support.
Correct.
We would approve or deny the jail committee's recommendation. Correct. And then we would bring it to the council.
Yeah, ultimately the commission, as the commissioners, you can do whatever you want with whether you take the committee's recommendation or not. You propose which agreement you want.
But before it became to the council, we would approve it.
Yep. I mean, you can do it the other way. The council can approve, hey, this is the amount of the payment that we're gonna put forth for a bond, and then work to it. I've seen it done both ways. It's typically the commissioners first, though, that makes the most sense.
When any of the options with site prep, is that something that we could work on as far as, how much site prep? Let's say option 3, I don't know, what would be like site prep as far as what we can tackle as far as the county?
Yeah, I mean, we would be open to have any of those discussions on if there was specific scope that you guys could do yourself and, maintain what we need and the schedule that needs to happen so it doesn't create somebody being unproductive and costing more. Yes, absolutely. There's skill sets you guys have the ability to do. We've done that in various counties.
I think with that, maybe open it up to other people, other elected officials or employees. Is that what you wanted to do, Shane?
Go ahead and open it for the employees of the county or elected
Maybe
officials.
start with the sheriff. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. Members of the Grant County Board of Commissioners, Grant County Council, as the elected sheriff of Grant County, I serve as a steward of the People's Jail. That stewardship requires transparency, accountability, and a clear presentation of operational reality. Tonight I'm going to present data, not emotion, history, not speculation, professional standards, not opinions, and fiscal impact, not assumptions. This discussion is not about building the biggest jail. It's about building the smallest facility that actually solves a problem we already have. To understand where we are, we must understand how we got here. In 1981, the current jail was constructed, designed structurally to allow 2 future floors. In 1985, 4 years later, Sheriff Ron Mowry publicly stated that the jail was already full. In 1989, expansion planning began due to severe overcrowding. In 1991, 2 additional floors were added. 1995, overcrowding persisted. In 1997, temporary relief occurred due to state prison policy changes. From 2002 to 2006, persistent overcrowding returned. In 2007, Grant County was sued over jail overcrowding. From 2007 to 2016, population decreased due to criminal justice efficiencies and programming. But from 2016 to the present, sustained overcrowding has returned. The pattern is consistent. Every expansion has been reactive. Every relief period has been temporary, and the population pressure always returns. So our current operational reality is this. Our rated capacity is 274 beds. Today, our current population is 371 inmates. We're over 97 inmates. Our occupancy rate is 135%. Daily averages range between 360 and 380 inmates. This means we operate 86 to 106 inmates over capacity daily, or 131% to 139% of rated capacity. This is not seasonal, this is not temporary, this is routine. Operating at 135 capacity strained staffing ratios increases mandatory overtime, accelerates burnout, and impacts recruitment and retention. This is not sustainable. The Indiana Department of Correction provides best practice guidance that jails should operate at approximately 80% of rated capacity. This benchmark is widely recognized in correctional facility planning nationwide. You might ask, why the 80%? Because at or near 100%, critical functions break down. Proper classification, required separation of inmates, medical capacity, mental health housing, segregation space, protective custody, staff safety, and inmate safety. Overcrowded facilities experienced increased violence, increased staff injuries, higher grievance rates, more use of force incidents, and greater legal exposure. Applying the 80% standard would mean that with 365 inmates, we would need 456 beds. 380 inmates, we would need 457 beds. Operationally, Grant County requires approximately 460 to 475 beds to function properly under recognized corrections. Financial impact on out-of-county housing. Because our jail cannot safely house our full population, 83 inmates are housed out of county. Cost per inmate per day is $40. Annual cost is $1,211,800. That equals over $12 million in 10 years without building a single square foot of county-owned infrastructure. That money builds no equity, creates no asset, improves no infrastructure, and solves no long-term problems. It is a recurring operational expense with no return. The question is not whether we will pay, it is whether we will pay towards a permanent solution or continue paying indefinitely for a temporary one. Now, I want to address the low-level offender narrative that people put out there. There's a perception that our jail is filled primarily with minor offenders. The data doesn't support that. Total population today is 371 inmates. Of the 371 inmates, we have 13 inmates that are in there on only misdemeanor charges, which is 3.5% of our population. When we put our misdemeanor or level 6 felonies combined, today we have 126 inmates, which is 34% of our population. Now, one of the things we hear a lot about is a lot of drug offenders. Level 6 felony possession, the highest charge, we have 29, which is about 7.8% of our population. Only 13 inmates are held on misdemeanor-only charges. Those charges include domestic battery, invasion of privacy, theft, driving while suspended, and some with multiple counts. Overcrowding is not driven by minor marijuana offenses. Let me say that again. Overcrowding is not being driven by minor marijuana offenses. Now, both the commissioners and the council have consistently stated a desire to address addiction and mental health challenges in Grant County, and I agree we need to do that. But we must confront reality. Our overcrowded jail limits our ability to properly help the very individuals we all say we want to support. A significant portion of our population struggles with substance use disorder, co-occurring mental health conditions, trauma, unstable housing, cycles of relapse and rearrest. The jail plays a critical role in this crisis, not because the jail is the ideal treatment setting, but because it's often the first point of stability. For many individuals, they detox in our custody. They are medically stabilized. They are sober. They are off the street for the first time in months or years, and they are often most open to change. The moment represents a window of opportunity, but opportunity requires infrastructure. At 135% capacity, survival becomes a priority, programming becomes secondary. Effective treatment requires space, dedicated mental health housing, proper medical units, detox monitoring areas, structured treatment pods, classroom and counseling space, and reentry planning areas. Without space, treatment groups are canceled. Classifications become reactive. Mental health separation is compromised, and staff operates in a crisis mode. If we truly want to address addiction and mental health in Grant County, we must acknowledge you cannot run meaningful programs in a chronically overcrowded facility. It can't be done. They've talked about the three options. Option one, D-home renovation and plus a new pod will give us 352 beds total. If we look at the 80% capacity, that means we could only have 282 inmates. Still 83 to 90 inmates above best practice capacity. So we're overcrowded day one. And we continue to pay the 1.2 annual cost of out of county if the council wanted to continue that program. This delays the problem, it does not solve it. Option two, D-home plus new pod, let's renovate existing pod. That's going to give us 398 beds total. 80% capacity is 318 inmates. Still 47 to 62 inmates above best practice capacity. It reduces pressure but remains functionally overcrowded, and legal exposure remains. Option three, full new build, 469 beds. 80% capacity is 375 inmates. It aligns with professional standards, eliminates or drastically reduces the 1.2 million annual housing costs, creates a permanent county asset, includes purpose-built medical and mental health space, supports treatment and reentry programming, and is scalable for future growth. This is the only option that meets the current operational need under recognized standards. Professional best practices indicates 460 to 475 beds are needed. Only option three aligns with that reality. Option one and two institutionalizes overcrowding by design. The risk of underbuilding is greater than the risk of building correctly. For decades, Grant County has built just enough to survive the moment. Each time overcrowding returned. We now have the opportunity to make a strategic decision instead of a temporary one. This decision is about staff safety, inmate safety, fiscal responsibility, legal risk mitigation, and addiction and mental health treatment capacity. And most importantly, long-term public safety. I stand ready to work with each of you to ensure our decision is rooted in data, professional standards, and a responsible stewardship of taxpayers' dollars. Thank you.
Sheriff? And the hope would be that if we start treatment, that maybe we would see the numbers that would reduce like Hancock counties did from 320 down to 250 inmates. But every county, every community is different. And if we all had the answer, we'd have done it by now. Anybody else want to come in? And please state your name just for the public.
Melissa Stevenson, Core Services. Question about the option 1 and 2 that was talking about relocation of staff and where that would occur. We are looking at 45 to 50 of our staff, which would be part of that relocation. So looking for what the plan is.
The commissioners would have to be the ones.
Yeah, so currently, as commissioners, we've been working in the Salem Bank building, and would be probably the space that would be utilized to have those staff relocation areas.
Any idea of like the cost of those renovations?
Currently, I mean, we're
$500,000.
yeah, we're
We're
down
close.
to the carpet.
Around the carpet and IT.
So one of the things that I heard Sheriff say was without space, treatment won't happen. One of the things that I would encourage you to think about beyond just building the jail is 95% of the people who are incarcerated come back to our community. Those people we serve on community supervision. Last year alone, we did about just shy of 9,000 different interventions that are targeted towards substance use, trauma, co-occurring disorders, criminogenic factors that reduce the likelihood that people will come back to the system in the future. Those things have to be done in space, one that provides confidentiality, and that's a federal guideline. 42 CFR Part 2 says that people who are receiving services for substance use have the right to confidentiality. So we have to have space to have those conversations with confidentiality. In addition to that, we are using 5 different classrooms in our building, and so to run groups. We served about a little over 3,800 last year additional interventions in a group setting. So these are evidence-based, shown to reduce the likelihood of reoffense in the future. Without that same type of space, we won't be able to provide those services.
You don't have that. You got that over there. You got 8,000 square feet on just one floor.
Yeah, we've not been included in those conversations. That's why I'm asking.
Offices. I mean, when you get time, go over by there.
I would appreciate the opportunity to tour.
Look in there and see what, you know what I'm saying? I think it'll fit right to you.
Yeah, so, it's just looking at office space, what that means in terms of bathrooms, things like that. We have a lot of people that are working there, and so making sure that what we don't want is a disruption in the services that we provide. I believe that what we do is very good in terms of services for people on community supervision. And I would echo what the sheriff said. Without space, those things won't happen. And unfortunately, when those things don't happen, what we can predict is more people incarcerated. And that's not at all what I think we're trying to do here. And so if there's an opportunity for our leadership to walk through there and have that kind of that observation, we would definitely welcome that.
They'll feel right. They're over there every day working. Just feel right to go right in there. They're in there.
Okay.
Going at it.
Okay. And then, in terms of office space, there would be enough offices, private offices, and then also group rooms. Okay.
So, I mean, obviously, there's always going to be growing pains. And so, you're going to have temporary space. I think that we'll do our best, if that's what the council chooses, to make sure that we, are compliant with whatever regulations there are. Will you each have an individual office? I can't guarantee that today. I mean, I think we'll work to whatever meets the needs.
So from what I'm hearing is that we can go over to the Salem Bank at any time and just walk right in?
Yep.
Okay.
We'll go right in the front door. The maintenance guys are right there.
And I'll make sure that you get in and see.
Okay.
So,
So just thinking about, the work that we're doing on the back end, what we don't want is to fill the jail back up. That's not where we'd be at cross purposes at that point, right? So What we don't want is a disruption in the progress that we're making in the community with programming and things like that. So,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Good. I have one more question. Do you have any like procedures or protocols, like let's say something, a flood would occur or a fire or anything like that? I mean, do you have any, like what would happen if something happened and you needed to be displaced? Is there an emergency action plan?
So, when we received flooding before, we worked in there
Okay.
while they did renovations. So we were not displaced anywhere. We just stayed there while they worked.
Well, I know, just thinking about the VA and,
Oh.
those people being displaced, I was just curious.
Yeah, no, we've just historically stayed there during any type of renovation before.
What is the total project time that they'd be displaced? Approximate?
Like, just shy of 2.5 years.
Okay.
29 months.
I got you.
Says 29 months on the chart, yeah.
And so I guess the question would be if there's a large investment, is that a permanent relocation or is that a temporary relocation?
I mean, that's yet to be determined. But I think it'd be a temporary location.
We're not answering you because it's out of our lane.
Right.
We're
Just
the- we're the
questions that-
fiscal body, yeah.
Yeah,
It
this
would be, I mean, the commissioners are the executives, so don't take our silence as.
Right, yeah.
Ignoring
Not that
your
we're ignoring
question.
you, yeah.
No, they're just unanswered questions.
Yes. Oh,
And so
yes.
I'm taxed with answering this 45 times, right? And so I want to be able to give clear direction for our staff as well. What we don't want is people jumping to conclusions and panic, right? So the better we communicate, I think the better we'll be.
Absolutely. I would agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? We can open it to members of the public as well. Please just come and state your name and your address. That way we know you live in Grant County.
Michael Duke, East Bradford Pike, Grant County. At the risk of, at best sounding silly and worst sounding naive, I will admit I've been out of the loop a couple of months last year, so maybe I did miss something, but go back to a previous council meeting where there was a presentation and council, at least one of the council members asked a question about, do we really know what the problem is related to the jail? Has that problem been defined? From my experience in business and public matters where you deal with project problems or issues that you're trying to solve, you identify the root cause of a problem before you take the step of defining requirements as to how to solve that problem. So I guess in essence, I'm asking a question here about, have you got the cart before the horse? What assurance can the council, the commissioners give the taxpayers of the county that the true root cause of the jail problem has been identified so as to identify the requirements to lead to the development of options? And obviously, there's a lot of work that's been done. You're down to 3 options right now. I recognize that. I appreciate the definitive information that the sheriff has presented here tonight as to putting some quantification to the numbers to the what the sheriff's staff is having to contend with, which I know is a burdensome job, said best. So just want to pose that question for the council members and the commissioners to consider as they move forward and perhaps to talk to and give the general public, taxpayers assurance that we really know what the root cause is that we're dealing with here. Thank you very much.
And Mr. Duke, kind of to go along with that, I guess I believe it was posed by Mr. Scott had asked, well, who is in the jail and why are they there and things like that. And so I've actually gone through that jail population 3 times now. The most recent time, the list that I got, I don't believe I had all the out of county people. I had a total of about 300 that I looked through, and about 79 of them, their latest charge, I'll say latest charge because a lot of them have more than one charge. Latest charge was what I called drugs against self. It might have been that they had possession of some type of paraphernalia, or I didn't really see just marijuana by itself. Unfortunately, I would see like meth and cocaine. And then there was also, and that was about 79 people out of that 300. Roughly 38 of them, again, the latest charge they had was drug dealing. And so that's why the sheriff's talking about being able to work with some of these inmates because of the treatment factor. Because right there's 117 people that maybe if they had some type of treatment going on that they could be helped. And so that's the big one. I mean, as far as murder or attempted murder, 7 people. Molest and rape, there was about 4. Burglary, 5. Robbery, about 7. Battery, 30. Probation violations, 27, which some of those go back to the drug issues and things like that. And then failure to register sex offenders, 23 of those folks were in there. And then I had more of them, like intimidation, 13, fraud, 10, a felon with a firearm, 8. I mean, I kind of looked at it and I thought, it's not terrible from the standpoint that I don't feel like our community is dangerous. What I'm feeling like is a lot of these people centering around drugs is just, it's an epidemic. And I think every community is dealing with it and is trying to figure out how we can most effectively deal with it. So I guess that's kind of what I've done to kind of go through it and figure out who is there. And now it's kind of like, okay, what do we do from there? Because obviously our courts, due to the number of filings that they have, all of a sudden that creates a lot more work on their part. It takes more time to process them. Then you have issues of public defenders, the number of cases they can take, because there are limits to the felony level, plus how many, felony, level 5s and 6s they can have. And so there's a problem there. And then it can come back to the number of filings that we have.
It's a difficult problem.
It is. It's multifaceted,
I recognize that.
Which ends up with perhaps an inflated jail population.
I'll go back to Commissioner Polling's comments. It's a large number. And the taxpayers that we all are, is that a burden that we can carry at that large of a number, which presents a difficult decision at best.
And it doesn't.
But again, numbers that you're presenting there are, interesting. They're instructive. They are helpful. But is that the real? Do we have a real definition of what the problems are that, thus define the requirements in the facilities that are being proposed that are, culminating in the large numbers that are being presented, be it 60 to 70 million or upwards of the 70 to 80 million.
Right.
Any way you go, it's a burden that the taxpayers are going to have to be contending with. Taxpayers are just going to, hope that it's as minimal of a number as possible.
Yeah, and at the same time too, I mean, we're trying to do things to help with that overcrowding issue. The council, we did set up the referee court, which it'll be coming up in May, I think, on 1 year. And there are other programs that we're looking at doing. I believe next month we'll have a presentation from the sheriff on another.
I've sat through a number of the meetings last year where the courts and the council and the commissioners talked about developing programs and moving things around, trying to work at minimizing that population that the sheriff is describing.
It's the sheriff, and it's also probation work on it too with Melissa Stevenson and her team. So I mean, I feel like it's a team effort, and then it's trying to all come to the same conclusion or
I'm
similar.
trying to be a thorn in your side here, and you're
Oh,
not
no.
trying to convince me. I'm just trying to say,
Oh.
has the enough steps been taken to identify what those root causes are that lead to the definition of what option is selected? Thank you,
Appreciate your thoughts.
Mr. President,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think I have the answer to his question. And
Okay.
it's crime. The root of the problem is people are committing crime. And we as a community have to decide, do we want accountability or do we not want accountability?
Still gotta help them, Sheriff.
I
You
understand.
can call it crime for drugs. You know what we're talking about. They need to rehab. You know this for a fact. Now we're just rotating the same people. We've talked about this in community corrections, everything. Don't you come off like that's all crime what this is, because it's not.
I know you're very passionate
These
about
kids,
it.
no, wait a
I know
minute,
you're
Sheriff.
passionate about
These
it.
kids need help.
And
And you can't help them because your jail is actually for detention, not for medical, not for treatment. We need a private facility in here to get grant money to do this.
you know, as we've discussed this, Mr. Poland, I definitely appreciate your passion over the issue.
No, I'm looking at the taxpayer's pocket.
But we are passionate too. We do want to provide the help. The issue is this, is we have an inmate population that doesn't have a lot of resources. So facilities like Radiant Health, oftentimes because they don't have insurance or they don't have family members that can pay for rehab, oftentimes they're not able to get into those facilities. And Mr. Poland's 100% correct. I agree with him 100%. We have a very bad drug problem in our community. And I can tell you that it does affect everyday citizens, like the nurse that was coming into town to come to work out by Lakeview, where a lady with a drug addiction with drug in her systems gets in her lane, hits her head on, the nurse dies, the lady with the substance abuse problem doesn't, she lives. So it affects us all, and he is correct. They need help. But I can tell you, as I outlined before, the best way to get these individuals help is while they're in our facility, because that's where they are. If there was a private company that could come here and make money off of these addictions, they would be here yesterday. They're not knocking down our doors.
So do you have to have a private company help you run it into jail, Sheriff?
Well, that we're wanting to have, I met with Wabash County.
Do you have the training or do we have to have?
Hold on, let me answer your question. We went to Wabash County last Friday. They started a program called JCAP. I think it's a similar program that Hancock County has. And they have a very good record of affecting recidivism. And those are the types of programs we want to get. Now, you're correct. If we could get a facility here to open, that'd be one thing. Unfortunately, they're not knocking down the door to do that.
I'm not asking, I'm asking, do you guys have a private company come in that jail?
Hold on for a second. Or
that's a simple yes or no.
Or the county could build their own facility, which I can guarantee you to hire doctors and psychiatrists and those type of people costs a lot more money than to hire a jail staff. So you're looking at those costs. So yeah, we have talked to other entities to come into our jail to help. The issue is a space. We have no way of separating them. That's our big issue. We're way overcrowded, we lack space, and if we truly want to help the individuals that we claim we want to help, then we need to have the space to implement those programs and give them the tools and the resources that they need so that they don't have to come back to our jail. It's not about building a big jail. It's about building a small facility that meets the needs that we have in our county. So if we really want to help them, because I hear that a lot, that's what we want to do, then give us the tools and the opportunity to help the very people that we constantly say we want to help. And I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Appreciate your time, Sheriff. Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Yes, sir.
Ed Hartman, Fairmount, Indiana. I urge you to look at the total cost of the project. I may have missed something, but I haven't heard what happens to the existing jail if you choose 1, 2, or 3. The total cost of the project. If you say some things are going to be a problem and a challenge, like parking, what's going to be the solution there? Don't just kick it down the road. Put it in the total project. If you're going to have to acquire some more land, or what? You know, is the existing jail got a plan? Has it been discussed? I just urge you to put it in the total project cost. And then look at, okay, you're housing some out of county. What does that totally cost you per inmate? And what's going to cost you to run a new jail per inmate? All the costs in. Look at it as a total project. I believe you still owe about $5 million on the existing jail. So I wouldn't ignore that either. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harmon.
I was actually going to bring up the bond of the old jail when he mentioned that we haven't talked about much at this point. So that is still a debt to the taxpayers. We're going to have to pay that off if we do a brand new building. So that's just going to add to these costs.
Yeah, one thing too, I guess total project cost would be, I assume the jail would be destroyed.
That's something that we haven't discussed publicly as commissioners, and I don't think I'm ready to make any recommendations either way. You can see it both ways, and obviously the original jail in Grant County I would consider still standing. Obviously, we each commissioner have our own opinion. As far as the previous bond, at any time we can't, there was a penalty to pay it off early, or else it would have been paid off with the cash balance. It's got a pretty good interest rate, I think. So that's why the council never went out and paid that debt off, and for some other reasons as well. I know Mr. McCord and I had those conversations. The only thing that I would add is the taxpayers are already burdened. The 0.2% has already been implemented, and so the burden of the constituents paying the tax is already there, and so that is not going away. And I would just say that the other part that the burden still lies on, do you want crime or not, and how much, and what's acceptable or not acceptable. But the burden's always going to be on. And our job, I believe, is to lessen the burden as much as we can. I feel like that as a county commissioner, coming in and getting the project cost down the way we've done, I think we've done a really good job of trying to check all those boxes. I just want to appreciate BW Construction on helping us through the project.
You know off the top of your head how much time's left on that bond? Like time and monthly burden, monthly payment?
I think it pays off in 2038.
Is it 38?
Yeah.
I was gonna guess 37, but it's in that range somewhere. It's a ways off.
Yeah,
it's a ways off. The total bond issue was $8+ million. 6 of it related to the jail. And I'm not sure what's the balance is offhand. I'd have to get the schedule out to see. But
I don't believe all that was for the jail.
no, $6 million out of the $8 million.
Yeah.
It's not for the jail. 6+ out of the 8 total.
Mr. President, when everybody is done speaking, I would like to review, just for transparency reasons for the public, I would like to review these options, but once everybody is has had time to speak.
Yeah, I didn't know. Is anybody else from the public want to come up, make a comment? I think we might either.
Okay. Well, and this is all obviously public record since it's been presented, but I wanted to put it together for everybody to hear, and especially the public. So in looking at option one, our principal interest is $96,638,734. $3 million of that is coming from the jail lit. So we will max out the jail lit. Operational savings at 1.1 million. I don't know that it's technically savings because we're already spending that money. Option one, there would be no additional revenues needed. So we would be capturing the payment through the jail lit and through the 1.1 million that we already have existing. Option two, principal interest is $105 million, $953,769. This option would also max out the jail lit, also require the 1.1 million, would require an additional $225,000 per year of additional revenue. I think it's safe to say the additional revenue more than likely will come from taxpayers. Option three, principal and interest, $127 million, $463,852. This option would also max out the jail lit. 1.1 in the $1.1 million would also be used. Additional revenues needed for option three, $1,160,000 per year, which again where's that money coming from? More than likely taxpayers or some other source. So for financial transparency, I just thought it was important for the public and taxpayers to hear those numbers, as I'm sure all of us will be getting a lot of questions.
And that might have been perhaps what Mr. Hartman was talking about, along with other costs too for parking lots and things like that too.
So plus demolition of the facilities, which we do need to consider that when we're going through this process.
Right, which I would have no idea. I mean, a building like that, steel and concrete, is that $200,000 to $500,000? I don't know. The building constructors may know, but they may not. Because you guys build them, you don't destroy them. I don't know.
That'd be close to $1 million knocked down in jail.
Think so?
Time
Wow.
to fill the basement.
Wow.
You know,
Okay. So it'll be a lot.
there's two parts down to the Muncie Mall, and it was like 2.1 million.
But it is a legitimate cost to be considered as we go through the process, because you don't want things just standing around that shouldn't be standing around.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think that would be a lot tougher to make apartments out of, like the old jail was. Not quite as
I
functional.
guess we would want apartments beside the county, but
No.
maybe.
Mr. President, I got just, real quick too, Mr. Work may check my numbers here, but overall county goals and planning is one of the things that you're always looking at. And I think that Mr. Glickfield's probably been around longest to know this. When you're looking here and you're looking back, it's a lot easier. If we were looking here and looking forward and going, okay, we got 4 years, you got 4 years, I've got 4 years. That's also a whole different scenario, right? Like we may not even be here when this all gets finished and really gets going. So those are things you gotta look at. But according to the sheriff, at 1.2 million times 25 years, that's $30 million. That's cheaper than anything we've even talked about tonight by having out of county inmates being shipped. Just saying, I'm just putting it out there. And according to the financial guys, and I know in my own business, the interest rates are down. I expect them to go down again by about 0.25%. At 3.83, you would save $1 million per year on just the interest alone, give or take.
I'd have to take
$100,000. So, I mean, there are some interesting numbers there when you look at what Mr. Scott brought up. You could maybe take off 20 million per one of those, but you're still in the same ballpark. It's still a very large payment, has been allotted to tonight. I'd be interested in Mr. Glickfield's thoughts, knowing that he was very, very involved as a commissioner back in the day. What you think, just in general?
Well, the jail theoretically is supposed to be a short-term holding place. At some point, the Department of Corrections legislation has changed a few times since I've been involved. And there was a period of time when we housed level 6 felons after they were sentenced. And I think that has changed again to where we don't. But what I have seen, and I've been doing criminal law I'm in my 37th year. the population has changed. There is a sense of entitlement that is out there now with the inmates. The people committing the crimes are different than they used to be. I cannot tell you how many discussions I've had with clients who don't understand why they need to go to prison when they're dealing fentanyl over a certain weight. It's remarkable. It's almost shocking that people think they could do these kinds of things and there's no consequences. But when I look at the jail population and I hear the numbers, I've seen the emails going around, and a lot of the individuals, and the sheriff probably would agree with this, I don't know, 75, 80% are in there because of either substance abuse disorder or mental health issues. That is the vast number of, they have those issues. And when they are clean, their thinking is dramatically different than when they are not clean. The mental health is a different creature. It's when people are have their medication, they're much more rational, easy to deal with when they don't. But many people with mental health issues don't like the side effects of the medication, so they don't take it. And of course, their thinking is very flawed. The probation violation people that are in there being held on probation violations, at one point I saw was quite high. That is simply, I wouldn't say every case, because you have some that are new criminal offenses, but these are people who are not going to appointments, they're missing drug screens, they're testing dirty, probation violation is filed, they get arrested, all tied to substance abuse. So when the sheriff talks about, and Melissa talks about programming, when you ship people out, the programming's not going to happen. Because Fulton County, Tipton County, where they go, they're back and forth, they're not in for a period of time to get that done. When they're in our jail, I know one of the programs they run is called MRT. It's kind of trying to eliminate that criminal thinking and show there's another way to think. That is a program which I have been speaking with clients over the years, I think is a great program. And I don't believe they can do a lot of substance abuse in there now, but if in fact that can happen and we can do that in-house, I think that does help, because in talking to people who have stayed clean for a period of time, and I've been the drug court public defender now for 18 or 19 years, it's almost unanimous that they say that that group support, that group setting, going to groups, that accountability that the group holds is very important in maintaining sobriety. So it is, I have said, and I'll continue to say, this is probably the most important decision that will ever be made, at least up to the time I've been here, by Grant County government. You were talking about an enormous amount of money, but you're also talking about an enormous societal problem that is there. So I hope that answers your question.
It does, a little bit. And I think that hopefully everyone's hearing the same thing, and that we need to get on the same page. Whatever we're doing, we need to be on the same page and push forward, because it's not cheap. Either way we go. I don't think either way you go, you win. I think it's a no-win. If you don't do nothing, you're going to get in trouble, right? At some point we get sued, we lose that probability. We do something, at least if the interest rates are down, we're tax burdening the people. I get it, but I mean, what are we going to do? We got to do something. Just think we need to get on the same page as the group in the back that has to work the jail. I mean, we all got to be on the same page.
And I think step one of that decision process that we're going to deal with is this facility, is it done? Has it had its status? Can it last more than 5 years? You know, or are we finished with it at this point? And that's the first decision. If we feel like the facility is used up now and we can't go for a long term with it, it's time to do something.
Yeah, because you're looking at 29 months or whatever to get something done.
Right, so you're getting close to that. So I think that's step one. And then once you decide yes or no to that, if it's a yes, then what are we going to do?
Yeah.
And a lot of options, a lot of opinions on that. And it does, in my mind, I'm thinking probably if we're going to do something, it's going to be large dollars, whatever it is that we do. I said this back earlier in our committee meetings.
I want it to be something that's long-term. It fixes what we need to have in this system as best we can, long-term. I don't want it to be a Band-Aid, I guess, for 30 years. I want it to be something we can look back on and say, yeah, even though it cost us some money, in the long run, it was good for our government to do that because of the impact it had on what our problems are. Now, the taxpayers, obviously, every cost Mike went through, taxpayers are going to pay that. It's not some other source. It's going to be taxpayer money of some kind that pays for it. But that is part of the cost of us having a society, is taking care of those issues. We've been taxed with that, and it's our responsibility to decide if it's necessary, one, and if it is, how do we fund it and how much do we fund? So we've got to decide that. That's our responsibility to the taxpayers to do that. They don't like it maybe in some of the decisions that we make on that. But our responsibility is to do what we think is right in the long term for our taxpayers in this problem. And there are some things we can't control. We can't control who gets put in that jail, how long they're kept in the jail. We can't control that. We have to rely on the other factors, the other pieces of this whole system to do their best job to make sure that they're being efficient with that. We just have to do the best we can to provide a facility for that to happen.
Jim, I would also add to that, when we built the detention center in this room in 97, 98, this room was packed. I mean, there were people, and now I look around and I'm curious about the public input. You know, people had opinions and they came in and gave those opinions in these public meetings to the commissioners and to the council. And now, unfortunately, you guys, other than maybe people you talk to, you know, a few people have been here and given public input, but it's just very different. I'm puzzled why that is, frankly. I'm hoping maybe in your meeting, when you hear it, you'll have a lot more public input on that.
And maybe that people realize that there is a big problem with this and we got to do something. I've talked to a couple people and they said, hey, I know it's a big problem. We trust your decision-making process to get through the problem, you know, kind of thing. So I don't know if that's true of a lot of people, but I know that I've heard that before. Yeah. It's not an easy decision for sure. Because it does affect all of us, and it affects us too. It's not just everybody out there, it affects all of us.
I mean, I guess going back and thanking what Mr. Duke presented and hearing Mr. Glickfield's comments, if our greater need is rehabilitation and treatment, does it make more sense to look at construction of a rehabilitation treatment facility as opposed to a brand new jail? I think the biggest question is, I think Mr. McCourt, you're right, is what is the longevity of that? And I've said that before. I want to find somebody, a private entity that's going to come who doesn't have a stake in a decision telling us the condition of the jail.
Yeah, if you decide this can last 20 years, then maybe you just build a facility for the rehab type thing you're talking about. But I guess, remember, this is what, 45 years plus for the original 1980 build, and then what? After that, there was like 1985 or 1990 was the next phase.
I think 90, Sheriff, 91.
91, okay, so that's what, 35 years old. So it's not a new facility.
It's not a new facility. If it was constructed right, then there should be some longevity. I was in
1800. We're in the 1800 building right here. We're sitting in, guys.
Yeah, I mean, 2 Saturdays ago, I was in a school that was built in 1940, and I mean, it's in really good shape and has a lot of years left. It was constructed correctly.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this one was.
I don't know, and that's what I keep asking. To me, I think that's one of the biggest answers that we need is what is the actual longevity of that building? Because if it is 15 or 20 years, to me, it makes sense to look at taking care of what we have identified as our root problem.
Well, I remember back as we were on the council together back in 2018 when we sold that last bond issue. And the overall scope of things, that's not a big issue, but it's money. We told the commissioners at that point, if we're going to give you this bond issue, which we are, if you're going to tell us it's going to last through that bond issue. Obviously, that's not the case at this point.
Right.
So, yeah, that's an issue.
I would just say that there's no study that I've seen that says that the current jail, it's at its end of life. I think BW and ELZ, and I mean, if we had a study that said you could get more years out of it, we wouldn't be discussing today.
I don't know. This may not really be an issue. We are the oldest or next oldest jail standing in Indiana now. Is that right?
When I came into office, we were either third or fourth.
Okay. I know that up close to the top.
But the ones that were ahead of us
We're in the process of building a new jail.
It doesn't mean ours can't last longer. I'm not saying that, but it is interesting. We're one of the oldest facilities in the state.
We, as of right now, we might very well be the oldest.
And we did get a number from Amoresco for $6 million to update the jail. They gave us that number. Because that's when they said, yeah, we had a big conversation because they said that we had to bring it up to code. You guys will remember that. And I said, no, it's grandfathered in. That's what I'm saying. You guys can spend probably 8 to 10 million and buy yourself 15 years. According to the other guys, every 20 years you got to build a jail. But you're financing it for 25, which makes no sense. Okay? And if I've been here 5, and if I can buy you 15 for 10, I'd say the taxpayers love you guys. Because where you guys were posing, there's no way. You wait till your council meeting. I bet that place fills up on you.
A lot of money.
Lots of money.
Public input's important. I think that's for sure. Know exactly where they're at on it. I don't know if anybody else has any.
Right now, it looks like by waiting, you've saved some interest, a little bit of interest. You know, we was told all along, 2 to 3% a year, just as far as cost increase. So you gotta look at the big picture when, you know, every year you wait, you know, what is that inflation look like versus, you know, the rate of the bond.
You're right, we were told 20 years we'd be building a brand new jail. That's definitely a tough pill to swallow, knowing that we'll spend $100 and some million right now. 20 years from now, what's that? You talk about 2% increase every single year. In 20 years, what's the cost of the?
Well, you also got to look at, if you're helping the people and you're hoping that your population is going to go the other way as far as being in jail. I mean, you're talking about all this treatment in the jail, so you should have good return. Because to me, the jail's for detention. My grandpa was a deputy. It was for detention. It's not, we're not equipped to do that. And you're putting all that burden on the taxpayer. If you have a private company, you get grant money. There's all kind of grant money. Nobody's even reached out to us. Nobody even talked about helping these people. Let's be serious until I got here. Including you, Sheriff. We never had overpopulating like this until you became the sheriff 3 years ago. We had a little. We didn't have as much as we got now.
As I stated earlier, it's been a problem since 81. In 85, Mayor Mowry said we were overcrowded. We continue to have this problem. My question to Mr. Poling would be, what crime do you not want us to arrest people for?
It's not about that.
And then my question is,
No, listen, I done gave you guys this plan. We could have had this plan already done with. All you gotta do is make that dual bunk it. You got 92 beds. That kills your overpopulation. You move that to your rehab. You take the 92 people to rehab, your jail population goes down. You're not shipping the people out. You're breaking even on the money, guys. You're not paying attention because all you want is your name on a jail with a plaque that the taxpayers are going to have to pay for. You are a detention. You are not equipped to mental health or to drugs, Sheriff. You are a sheriff.
I understand that.
You're not a doctor, and all this you're trying to pull, and you guys can say all this, even Wabash Jail. Okay, I've been there too. They built a 300 jail. They got 150. They got programs, okay? Why did they could have built a 150 bed jail and had a program come in, Sheriff. You're putting all this on the taxpayer. Every bit of it. And it don't bother you because you get your money from the taxpayer.
Let Mr. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, as I said before, it's not necessarily about a big jail. It's about building something that's going to meet our needs. That will eventually save the taxpayers money in the long run. We can either rent to own and pay a lot more money, or we can go ahead and fix the problem and move on. That's a decision that you guys have the hardest decision. My job's the easiest. I provide you with the information. I provide you with the condition of the jail. I provide you with the number of inmates that we have. The commissioners decide whether a new jail's needed. If they decide that a new jail's needed, you guys decide how to fund it. I understand I have the easiest portion of, or the easiest part in this whole process. I'm just trying to be transparent to let you guys know where we're at. I'm going to work with whatever you give me. This is a people's jail. This isn't Del Garcia's jail. It's a people's jail. And whatever you guys give us, we're going to work to the best of our ability to make it work. I'm just providing you the information of what's going on. We have 274 beds. We're averaging 365 to 380 inmates. Those are the facts. No emotions, no argument about, those are the facts. Those are the numbers. If we want to change the law, the sheriff's not the one that changes the law. We need to talk to our state legislators. If we don't want people put in jail for certain reasons, we need to go to the state legislature and let them change those laws. However, I will never apologize for making Grant County safe. Because in my 31 years in law enforcement, I can guarantee you this, that I've kicked down the doors, that I've dealt with people that have overdosed, that I've seen people's heads blown off, that I've seen those things in my 31 years. I don't just talk about it. It's not something that I just talk about. It's something that I've lived for 31 years. And how dare you tell me we don't care? I can tell you this, I care more for those inmates than probably most anybody does, because I'm responsible for them. And I take that responsibility serious. And that's why I'm saying we need to provide, we can't just have sound bites and say we want to help people. That's just a sound bite. What are we going to do to help people? But I'll guarantee you this, whatever you guys choose to do, I'm going to do my best to work with that, and we'll continue to march forward, but we'll continue to make Grant County a safe place for everybody. And you guys have my word on that.
Thank you, Sheriff. All right. I think gotten comments from everybody tonight. I think this is it's a very difficult topic for us. It's a lot of money, and I guess I'll get with the commissioners about having another jail committee meeting, and then I guess from there we would have to have a recommendation that would go to the commissioners, and then the commissioners can decide from there what they want to do to make a recommendation then to the council on what they think they want to do. Yep. A comment? All right. Yes, sir.
Randy Atkins, 8560 South Wheeling Pike. You know, I've heard identification of the problems. I've heard community corrections. I've heard overcrowded jail. I've heard money. When are you going to come together with a plan to address the pieces? I haven't heard the plan to address the problems. And how can you even begin to think that you're going to put this county in that kind of debt without having a plan to address the problems? I pay a significant amount of taxes to the county here. We own about 900 acres. And I'm concerned that we don't have a solution to the problem. Mr. Glickfield shared that we've had a problem, that we need rehabilitation. Where's the component of rehabilitation? Who answers to that? I didn't hear that person come up with a solution for rehabilitation. You got to get it together, folks, before you drop the county in that kind of tax burden. Has there been an effort to come together?
There have been discussions ongoing, and we're actually having one with the sheriff Friday morning.
And the other question I asked, Mr. Glickfield shared that we filled the room the last time you had this discussion. What are you doing to help the taxpayers out there know that this has taken place? You should be filling the room with what's going on here. They should be standing in the hallway with the debt that you're going to put this county in. What are you doing to publicize that? To let the people know? Whose responsibility is that?
We used to have a newspaper that would put us on the front page of the headline saying that we're going to build a jail that'll cost $127 million total cost, and that would bring the people, but that doesn't happen as much anymore. I don't know whether that's good or bad for the community. I would say it's probably bad. So
Well, I think if, I'd encourage you to make an effort to keep, it's always better to deal with the problem beforehand than try and patch it up after you've made the decision. Because that's when they're gonna be angry. If you give them the involvement at the beginning, then you can say, hey, you had a chance, you had an opportunity to speak. I'm gonna encourage you to come together, folks. Thank you.
thank you.
I mean, I would like to speak on your behalf because I know you've been meeting with stakeholders individually and together collectively as groups. I just want everybody to know you have taken a very active role in meeting with those stakeholders, and publicly, I appreciate the efforts that you're putting into it.
And the thing is everybody's willing to talk. Everybody's willing to sit down and try and figure this out. And that I've been very encouraged. But of course, there's no easy solution. If we knew that solution, it would have been done years ago. But thank you.
Well, one thing that's been talked about tonight a little bit in previous meetings also is space.
Mhm.
The current constricted space we have to meet the actual numbers of people incarcerated at this point, that space doesn't allow for that segregation, doesn't allow for those, areas that can be dedicated to helping this issue or helping that issue. One thing we ought to keep in mind as we do something with a project, if we do one, is accommodating that kind of need, if we can. That was Hancock County, one of the things they really stressed there is they have that space to deal with those different populations in a manner that's been successful. Now, whether that's gonna help us, there's no guarantee, but that's something to consider to move forward.
Yeah, I agree.
And that was talked about some tonight, not directly, but mentioning the space we have available, those kind of things.
Right. Right. Definitely probation mentioning space too. Don't want to lose space. So, yeah. I don't know if anybody has anything else for the good of the cause for tonight. If not, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting.
So moved.
All right. Do I have a second? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Adjourned here. And then
The commissioners, our next regular meeting is March the 2nd, and we'll be in recess until then.
thank you.